Lesson 8H, the spinal cord. The central nervous system receives sensory impulses and organizes and interprets them to coordinate a response. It is composed of two parts, the spinal cord and the brain, both of which are protected by bone. The brain is protected by the skull and the spinal cord by the spinal column, comprised of individual bones called vertebrae. Collectively, we know this is the backbone or the vertebral column. Both the skull and the spinal cord are lined on the inside by three continuous membranous layers, collectively called the meninges. Inside of these layers is a special fluid called the cerebrospinal fluid, which helps physically buffer your brain and spine from being damaged by mechanical means. The meninges also support the many blood vessels that go to and from the central nervous system. Here you can see one of the many bony vertebrae that encloses the spinal cord. Here is the meninges that anchors the blood vessels and holds the cerebrospinal fluid. As you can see, the spinal cord is made up of both myelinated white neurons, or white matter, and unmyelinated gray neurons, or gray matter. The role of the spinal cord is to receive nervous impulses from the peripheral nervous system and to transport them up to the brain for processing a response. In certain cases, the spinal cord will even produce a response without input from the brain, which we call a reflex response. The spinal cord will then relay these responses to the peripheral nervous system to an effector tissue, organ, or gland. The spinal cord and its protective vertebrae are separated into 5 divisions: the upper cervical or neck region, the thoracic or chest, the lumbar or abdominal, the sacral that's found in your pelvis, and at the very bottom, your coccygeal or tailbone. This diagram shows some sensory and motor neurons that branch from the different divisions of the spinal cord. In the cervical, we find nerves controlling breathing, head and neck movement, as well as heart rate. The thoracic controls hand and finger movement and temperature regulation. The lumbar controls hip, leg, and foot motion, while the sacral controls bowel and bladder activity.